Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Community Charging Rebates program, the Applicant Support Session. We're so happy that you're here. We're still having folks joining us, so we're going to give it a few more minutes until we get started. So get comfortable, get your questions ready, and we'll get started at 12:02. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let's start with some introductions. Welcome. My name is Alexandra Everett. I'm a program manager with Fourth. ODOT has contracted with Fourth to provide outreach and technical assistance for this rebate program. And I'm really happy to have Jenna Compton with us from ODOT to walk us through the applicant support session. So take it away, Jenna.
Hi everyone, I'm ODOT's Transportation Electrification Financial Coordinator, and I'll be the one working really closely on the Community Charging Rebate Program. So we're happy to have everyone here, and we'll begin our presentation now. So let me share my screen. Mm, Okay, and can everybody see that clearly? Okay, perfect. Good, thank you. Thank you for answering all of that. So to start off, as we proceed with these examples, please keep in mind that ODOT does not endorse any one particular company. Also, these are meant to be hypothetical scenarios to help applicants with the application process. Please do not use any of the contact information listed. Also, ODOT is not advocating for any specific price. These prices were chosen for demonstration purposes of the rebate and are not real reflections of true costs. ODOT also reserves the right to make changes to the application before the program launch date. And yes, the session will be recorded and we'll have the session posted online on the Community Charging Rebate Program website. Sorry for the clarification. So as you can see on the application, here is section 1. And for this process, we're going to go through an example with a slight backstory for John Example. This is the member that we're discussing. And so John Example works for a charging company that will be incurring the project costs. The project has not begun installation quite yet, so they will select pre-installation application. And so you can do that here in section 1. Are you applying for pre-installation or post-installation? Select pre-installation. Here's John Example. Here's John Example's email, his phone number, and this email is going to be really important when you submit that because that's where all of the correspondence for the application will be sent to. So make sure you use the appropriate email for that. And then they're going to submit the application name. For these purposes, it's charging company, and the application organization type can be selected here. And as you can see, there are multiple options that you can go through and select when you're filling out the application. Uh, this individual will select business EVSP, and then he will continue. He'll end up submitting his EIN number for his company. And this EIN number must match the one listed on the W-9 that will be used during the post-installation portion of the application, so keep that in mind. If you go to make any changes to the EIN to match that W-9, you'll have to go back to page 1 to make those adjustments. And is it a minority or woman-owned business? The applicant selected no. And then what is the applicant's organization relationship to the project site? He is an authorized agent. So you can select site owner or authorized agent. For the purposes of this example, he selected authorized agent as he will be applying on behalf of a property owner. And then have you completed a site verification form or site host agreement to prove site owner authorization? He selected yes. This is a requirement for all projects. So whether you are the site owner or authorized agent, you must submit a site verification form. If you were to click on that link, it will pull up this form. So I apologize if this is small or slightly blurry, but this is the form that you can find on our program website and fill out now. If you're planning on applying for round one, we do recommend that you start working on the site verification form to get it ready for the application process. You can type in all of the information needed throughout the application. However, once you hit sections where a signature is required, like this one, uh, the signature will need to be printed. So keep that in mind. And we will go back to the application. Oh, okay. And so I see a question in the chat on where to submit the site verification form that will be coming up soon. So here we have section 2. And so I'm going to scroll through this section fairly quickly because this is a checklist to confirm that applicants have read the guidelines and understand and agree to the requirements of the program. To move forward with the application for section 2, you must select yes to all of these requests. And then you must check these boxes for the deadline. If you don't check these boxes or if you select no, an error will show up, so you won't be able to move forward with the application. So you must select yes. And you'll be able to view this and read this more in depth in the application when you're filling it out. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll just move forward. And so John example is filling this application out, and the project site property owner is Jane Doe. So please keep that in mind. The project site address is 555 13th Street Northeast. And then here's the address. This is a real address, so we'll be using this example for the purposes of this demonstration. And so once you fill out the project site address, you'll then select the project site location type. And so you'll pull the drop down and then look through and see which one best fits the project site description. And so for the purposes of this example, we'll do public parking and you'll select the public parking lot. Uh, this public parking structure has 25 spots, so they enter the 25 spots. And then the next question is CCR designated priority community. So if you look at the dropdown, there's priority disadvantaged, priority rural, and non-priority. So those are the three. You can click here to determine the location's priority type. When you click here, it'll take you to a map. This up. And if you are filling this out, you want to make sure that the address auto-populates before searching, so you'll want to click the one in the drop-down. So you'll click that, and it'll give you an answer. So priority community disadvantaged for this site location. So we'll go back to the application, and you will select priority disadvantaged. If your location falls into both priority disadvantaged and rural, you will select either option. But for this example, they only fall into priority disadvantaged, so that's the one that we select. Is the proposed installation location on tribal reservation land? No, it's not. And then for the rebate reservation amount, you will go through and select either publicly accessible parking or multifamily housing. We select publicly accessible parking, the number of planned level 2 charging ports. For the purposes of this example, it's 4. So he's installing 2 stations with 2 ports, and so there will be 4 ports in total. And the total rebate amount is $17,000. The $17,000 is calculated based on the base rebate amount times the number of ports. So, if you proceed further into the application and you fill out your eligible costs, then your rebate could be calculated on either the 75% of eligible costs or the base rebate amount. For the reservation process, we're going to be using this base rebate amount for all of the applications that are pre-installation. And then as we proceed, we'll recalculate the rebate amount later on, but this is to reserve that amount for the applicant. And then uh, they'll select the electric utility providing power to the proposed charging station location. There's a drop down with all of the electric utility providers in the state of Oregon. And so you can click on this link to find your electric utility provider if you're not familiar with the area, and it'll pull up this map. I'm going to refresh this so you can see the steps that we go through. So this is the map that will generate. Once you get to this map, you want to make sure that you select Got It for this little pop-up. If you don't, it will not show an answer, so you want to make sure that you select that. And then you'll take the project site, and you see Salem, Oregon, and then you'll go to electric utilities. Portland General Electric is the electric utility provider in this region. As you can see, Salem Electric is over here in the blue. So we'll select PG&E for this demonstration. So you'll put in PG&E right here. And then, does your electric utility offer incentives for commercial or multifamily housing level 2 charging stations? You can select yes or no, depending on your electric utility provider. PG&E does offer an electric utility incentive, so we will select yes, but if I were to select no, then you can see these fields will disappear. So we will select yes, and then the next question will pop up, will you apply for an electric utility incentive? In which you would select yes, you would want to apply for the electric utility incentive. If you select no, you will have to provide a reason for why you won't be applying for the electric utility incentive. So if you're ineligible for whatever reason, you can list that information here. However, if you are eligible, you must apply for the utility incentive before proceeding with the application because it's not, you won't be able to choose which one you're applying for to try to claim ours. You would have to apply for your utility incentive before applying for the CCR application because our rebate is calculated based off of this amount. So then you would fill in the expected incentive amount from the utility. In this case, we have listed $4,000. Again, this is just a demonstration. These aren't accurate numbers. And then from that point on, it says, please upload the site verification form here. This answers the question that came into the chat. You would submit the site verification form here. And then please upload the project quotes or engineering estimate here. You would want to go through and upload either the two quotes or the detailed engineer's estimate. You can submit two files into one upload, so keep that in mind. And we do request that the quotes and the engineering estimate, whichever you end up choosing the route you go with, that the project site address, the quantity of chargers, the number of ports, and the system cost are clearly listed on either documents. So now we'll head to section 4. Section 4 is just reaffirming that you understand and agree to the terms of the program before submitting the application. They also have a section that states that you have uploaded the following required documents, and that is right here. Uh, I would like to highlight that the documents submitted that have post-installation next to them in the parentheses, so these two examples right here, uh, are not requested for pre-installation applications at this point, and you can continue to proceed. So when you're filling out the pre-installation, don't worry about these two. And then you can continue. Then you can sign by typing or drawing in your signature. The drawing can be a little bit tricky, but feel free to go for it if you would like. Uh, and then Once you click submit, you'll receive an email with a PDF of your application as well as your application ID and the amount that has been requested for reservation. If on any page you would like to leave and revisit your application, just click save, which would be down here. This save button is on each section of the application, so you can save at any time. And so when you click save, uh, it will pull up a pop-up that has both the application link to your specific application. You can copy that link and save that in a different location if you would like, or you can submit your email address. And when you submit your email address, you will then get an emailed attachment of this form and where you left off sent to you by email, and then you can open up the form there and fill it out the rest of the application. And I would like to note that applicants will receive email confirmation throughout the different stages of the application, from submitted to additional information requested to reserved and approved. So you will have email updates along the way as your application flows through. Perfect. And Alexandra, I'd just like to check in. Are there any items that I should go back on the application before
It
moving
sounds like
forward?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of really great questions in the chat that myself and Jillian from ODOT are answering, but I think we're good to move on to the next section.
Okay, perfect. So this will take me just a minute to get the post installation section up. And I'll make this bigger. Can everybody see this okay? Yes, okay. Perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. Okay, so now we'll move into the post-installation application process. For this example, we're going to use Jane example, and Jane owns an apartment complex and she will be incurring the project costs. So she's going to be going through the application process for herself and throughout the entire thing. So Jane example fills in her contact email, her phone number, she puts in her apartment complex name, and then for the applicant organization type, she will select multifamily housing, but there are a bunch of options that she can pick from. And then she'll submit the EIN number as well. And then, is it a minority or women owned business enterprise? For this example, she will select yes. What is the applicant organization relationship to the project site? She is the site owner. So she owns this apartment complex and owns the site. And then, have you completed a site verification form? She will select yes. She will need to fill out the site verification form as well. Even though she is the site owner, she will still continue to need to do that. We'll move on to the next section. So again, I'm going to scroll through the certification checklist quickly. This is a checklist to confirm that applicants have read the guidelines and understand and agree to the requirements of the program. And if you want more information on this, we also have our pre and post installation guides, step-by-step guides that have images of these questions. So we can go through that at a different date. They will be updated again to have more relevant information on Friday. So keep that in mind. So we'll move on to section 3. So Jane is the site property owner. Here is the project site street address for her apartment complex. And then she'll move forward. She will select the project site location type. So there's multiple examples for the purposes of her project. She would select multifamily housing. Then if the multifamily housing site is selected, please identify the number of housing units in the building. Her apartment complex is large, so she's going to pick 20, and for the total number of parking spots, she will submit 15. Note that there is a minimum of 5 units required for multifamily housing complexes to be eligible for the purposes of this program, as well as a minimum of 5 parking spaces for multifamily housing as well. So please keep that in mind. If I were to submit 4, on this one. If you were to submit 4, you'll get an error. So there are a lot of places in the application where if you submit the wrong information or something that wouldn't allow you to move forward, you'll get an error, and this is really preventative so that, as you proceed through the application, when we're reviewing it, there won't be as many errors to have your application sent back. And so then she'll need to figure out her designated priority community type since the address isn't a currently existing address in Salem, Oregon. I can't put it into our community CCR priority type locator map. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to select non-priority. And also as an example, non-priority communities are not ineligible. They just pull from a separate bucket of funding. So do keep that in mind. Is the proposed installation located on tribal reservation or trust land? The answer is no. And then her electric utility providing power to the proposed charging station location is Salem Electric. So she would select Salem Electric. And then the next question, does your utility offer an incentive for commercial or multifamily housing level 2 charging stations? Salem Electric currently does not, so we would select no. If you have any confusion around if your utility offers an incentive or not, you can always call or contact them and ask, and they would be willing to share that information. And then you would update your site verification form. And this is where it gets slightly different from the pre-installation application. So you're going to see some new information here. For the site type, she's going to select multifamily housing instead of publicly accessible parking. Then this project happened in the future. The installation date must occur after the program launch date, and so the program launch date occurs on the 13th. Project costs also must be incurred after the program launch date, so keep that in mind as well. So if I try to input the date of the 11th, I'm going to see an error. So the installation must occur after the program launch date. And so we can select June 13th, and then we can continue. So again, ODOT does not endorse any one particular company. So we are just using these examples for the purposes of the program. We could select any charger that's listed on our list, but we're going to go with Blink for this example. And so when you select Blink, actually, let me do a different one. If I select Breeze EV and click Model, then it'll pull up the specific model for that project. And then you can click on that model. And then there's no model number, so we don't have to input any information here. If we select Blink and then we select the model number, there's multiple, or the model name, and then we can select the model number because there is one. So this really helps minimize on time spent searching for your specific make, model, and model number. And then she's planning on installing 2 ports per charger with a quantity of 4 total chargers. And the kilowatt output is 7.2 for each charger. And then since this is a multifamily housing project, they have the option of level 1 charging stations. And so if she were to be installing one, she could just select add one and then fill out the level 1 charging station information. This won't show up for publicly accessible parking spots, so do keep that in mind. And if we were to move forward, she would see an error because these aren't filled out. So what she can always do is click the X button and then this disappears, and then that requirement doesn't occur. So then the total level 2 charging ports installed will be auto-calculated right here, and the total number for level 1 will be auto-calculated right here. Please identify that the L2 networking status, you can choose between different options, but we'll be selecting networked. Note that public sites are required to be networked, and networking is recommended at multifamily housing sites with 5 or more ports, so that is a requirement of the program. And then please identify your network provider if applicable. We'll be using networking company, just to be general. But you would want to be more specific when you're filling out this application of who the actual network provider is. And do you plan to charge a fee for charging at the station installed under this program? You can select yes, no, or undecided. If you select no, some of the fields don't show up. If you select yes, they do. And if yes, please provide the rate of charge per kilowatt hour. So, uh, for example purposes, we did 1 cent per kilowatt hour, but this is not a representation of true cost or any specific cost. And so, if yes, please select the payment methods that are offered. We would select credit/debit card. You can also select toll-free number or other if you would like. We'll just continue. Then you'll select the length of warranty. We put 10 years. There is a requirement of a minimum of 5 years. If you enter 4, you won't be able to move forward. So for this example, we'll just put 10 years. And then the party responsible for maintenance and repair, we just selected blank. This is just a text box, so you would just fill in the party responsible. And is the project site participating in another EV infrastructure incentive program? You can select yes. And if you select yes, you'll have to describe which programs they're participating in and then the amounts that they will be receiving. Or you can select no. For this example, we'll be selecting no. And then charging station owner, you'll put Jane example because she's the charging station owner. And for charging station operator, we chose charging company, but it can be specific to your project. Has each new charger installed as part of this project been reported to the Alternative Fuels Data Center for inclusion in alternative fueling station locator tool? So this is a requirement of the program. If you select no, you won't be able to move forward. So you must select yes. And then you would submit a new station here if you haven't done so already. So I can pull up the tab that would pop up, and this is what you would see. Apologies if this is smaller than expected, but you would want to fill out this information. And if you have any questions, you can email their technical response services or call, or Forth can also help out here. Then we'll go back. And has the charging station owner registered to be a credit generator in Oregon's Clean Fuels program? You can visit the link here. Let's see. And so when you click the link below, this is what would pop up. And so you would follow these instructions of how to register. It might look like this when you pull it up, but here are the instructions. And then you can contact this email or reach out to Forth if you have any questions around the Clean Fuels program. And then has each charger been registered as a fuel supply equipment in Oregon's Clean Fuels program? Again, these are requirements of the program. If you select no, you can't proceed. So you must select yes. And then you can click on the link and move forward. And so here's the link that will show up, and you can reach out to Forth if you have any questions as well. And then the next step would be to please identify any permits required for installation. For this project, we're choosing building permits and electrical permits. Contact your county or installer for local permitting requirements. And then you would scan the required permits and upload them here. And then there's a note down below that says, alternatively, please upload a letter from the authority having jurisdiction, AHJ, that no permits were required. So you can also submit that as well. And so multiple documents can go in here, so feel free to submit all of the required documents that you have. And then for the next upload is the required site photos, and you can submit them as a PDF or a PNG format. And so you would want to include photos of the charging equipment installed at the site, photos of the serial numbers for each station, a photo of the customer support number, and a photo of the pricing display. And you can upload those pictures here. Now we're getting to the W-9, and as I mentioned before, this is where that EIN number that you submitted early on becomes important. So when you upload your W-9, you can find a blank W-9 on our Community Charging Rebate Program website. So you can fill that out as soon as possible if you would like. The W-9 must be signed and dated within the last year, so keep that in mind. But if you're preparing and have either a pre-installation project that you want to get your ducks in a row for, you can pull that W-9 form now and start to fill it out. And then So the information on the W-9 must match the information that you manually enter. So the W-9's address would go here, the city, the state, and the zip code would need to go in this information. And so the information listed on the W-9 is going to be where the rebate is sent to. And so just keep that in mind. So we'll move on to the next page. Again, these prices and costs listed are not true costs. They are just used as representations for the program. So what you would want to do is you would want to upload the invoices for the equipment, the installation, the network agreement, and the maintenance contract where applicable. Some of these documents and requirements might be on the same invoice, but you can attach all of them to the upload file here. And then the information listed on these documents will be compared to the information listed in these fields. So you want to make sure that it's as clear as possible and that they do match. And so there's equipment costs, installation, including labor and materials, planning, engineering, and design, electrical service upgrades, project signage, site lighting, ADA compliance costs, network agreement, maintenance contract. And then at the end, once all of these have been submitted, that will be your total eligible project cost. And for us, it came out to $62,500, and that will be auto calculated. And then the total ineligible project costs will go here. So if you're confused about what the ineligible costs are, they are listed down below. So you can always reference the help text. It's throughout the entire application. You can always look for it and it'll kind of help guide you with what to input at certain areas of the application. And so for the purposes of this demonstration, we did 500 for building permit, 500 for electrical permit, and 800 for extended warranty, which is considered an ineligible cost. And so then that sum amount is listed here. And then we have the itemized breakdown on the right-hand side. You'd want to make this as neat and clear as possible for the reviewers. And then you'll continue. And so the total project cost goes here. Additional incentives received, which we filled out on the last page, and there were none, would go here. And then total level 2 charging ports, total level 1 charging ports, all of that information is relisted over here because that's what's used to calculate the base rebate calculation and the eligible project costs. So note this calculation down below is the lesser of the two. So as you can see, here's the base rebate amount and here's the eligible project cost. The eligible project cost is higher, and so the rebate that this applicant would be receiving if everything goes through would be the base rebate calculation because it is the lesser of the two. And so, yeah, we can continue. So finally, we hit the last page. This is section 6 is reaffirming that you understand and agree to the terms of the program before submitting the application. They also have a section that states that you have uploaded the following required documents, which is right here. Then you can sign by typing or drawing your signature, then the date will auto-populate and you can submit your application. And yeah, and then once you hit submit, you'll receive a confirmation email. And just like the pre-installation portion of the project, you can save your application at any point in the application process. Okay, so if we have questions, we can begin taking some of the questions now. I see Jillian and Alexandra diligently answering them in the chat. I'll stop sharing my screen as well.
Thank you, Jenna, for walking us through both the pre and post application steps. That was really helpful. We have a very active chat today with a lot of fantastic questions. Thank you all for being so active and participating in today's session. Jenna, I did have a request from somebody to go back to the pre-installation application. Is that something we can do and review again?
Yeah, I can do that right now.
And the specific request was to repeat the required information to be listed on the project quotes and engineering estimates in section 3.
Yes. So let me see. So this is where it would be submitted, and I had that written down for our requirements. Let's see. So we would want to see the project site address, the quantity of chargers, the number of ports, and the system costs. And I can list that in the chat too if that's easier.
Excellent. Thank you. Hopefully, Rachel, that answers your question. All right, let's see what we have going on in the chat. Looks like Jillian is very fast at typing, so thank you, Jillian. And most questions are getting answered. Okay, excellent. Okay, Tucker is asking if we can scroll through this piece slowly one last time. Tucker, can you say which piece? Section 3, the project information. Section 3, yeah. One more time, Jenna, please. We're not able to hear you right now. Jenna, your sound is off.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can.
Okay,
There you go.
perfect. Sorry about that. Do you need me to start from section 1 or section 3?
Section 3, please.
Section 3. Try to make this as big as possible so you guys can see it. And I'll go through this really slowly. If there's any parts where you want me to stop too, just let me know.
And Tucker, just so you're aware, we do have a PDF with screenshots on the ODOT website that walks you through all these sections as well. So you can refer to that as well when you're going through the application process.
And again, that will be those step-by-step guides will be updated to the most current version on Friday. So you guys can check back in on Friday to see the most current versions.
Okay, I'm just scrolling up a little bit on the chat to see if we have missed anything. I think we are getting everybody.
And we'll be reviewing all of these questions again after the presentation, so if we miss any questions too, we'll make sure to come back and answer them as well.
Yes, we definitely will follow up. Thank you, Jenna, for reminding everyone. Okay. I think we pretty much got everybody. We'll give you a couple more minutes to add your questions and we can either answer them here, but Jillian seems to have lightning fast typing skills. So thank you, Jillian. Um, I would like to say that right after we end this session, you will be prompted to a survey. So if you could take a few minutes to fill that out, that would really help us in improving these applicant support sessions for future rounds. Your feedback is really important, and we want to make this as smooth and as informative for you all as we can. Okay. Wow, the chat is moving so quickly. I can barely keep up, everyone. Great job with the questions.
Perfect. And I just saw a question come in that says, what's the best place for us to look to compute the overall look to compute the overall available rebate for a project. We don't currently have a system that will compute it outside of our application, so that's something that you would need to manually do. But if when you're filling out the application you want to test out different scenarios, you're welcome to do that as well.
And then we have a question from Nathan. If the rebate needs to be sent to another business address not listed on the W-9, is that possible?
That is not possible. Yeah, unfortunately.
Um, are there chargers with only one port? Is it possible to have an odd number of ports installed? It is possible you could have one charging station with two ports, and then you could have another charging station with just one port. So that would put you at three total ports. Okay. Right. There's a great conversation happening about um, the clean fuels program and the alternate fuels program as well. Stefania, we can follow up with you through an email and get you some more information.
And it looks like there's a question, if you have multiple owners of the multifamily housing property, can the rebate be divided if each owner has a separate LLC? That's not something that we would be able to do on our end, unfortunately.
And to confirm, the program only allows 8 total ports for one application. That is correct. That is the maximum you can apply for one application.
And it's one application per site location.
Mhm. Okay. All right. I think that now it looks like we're all caught up on the questions. Once again, once the session is over, we would really appreciate you to take a few moments to fill out the survey. And then any questions that we did miss, we will go through the chat one more time and follow up with everybody. In addition, we'll also send everybody who was registered for today's session the recording of this webinar so you can view that as many times as you want in preparation of the application launch on June 13th at 9 a.m. Looks like we had a few more questions come in. For the pre-installation application, is it required that the project have 2 quotes for installation? It is required to either have 2 quotes or 1 engineering estimate. The initial price quote doesn't limit final cost figures, right? Correct. The quotes are just to give you an idea for how much of the funding to reserve, but the actual rebate will be based off the actual installation and cost amounts when you come back and fill out part 2 of the application. And then, Jenna, this might be a good question for you about the W-9. Is that the
Mhm.
installer or the owner of the property?
So the W-9 must be from the individual that's incurring the project costs. Same with the applicant. The applicant must be the one incurring the project costs. So unless the installer is incurring the project costs, they would not be able to apply or submit their W-9. It would be on the applicant incurring the project costs.
Thank you, Jenna. And Jillian also wrote that in the chat as well. An engineering estimate would have very similar breakdown of what it would cost you to get the chargers installed. So you would want to have the cost of the chargers. You would want to have the network and maintenance agreement and their length. Um, and one more thing, Jenna, do you remember what one more thing? There's, I think, 4 things that the engineering estimate needed to have.
Yeah, I can look and see. So the project site address, the quantity of chargers, the number of ports,
Well,
and the system costs.
yeah, and then the network and maintenance agreements as well.
Mhm.
So that was way more than 4. My math was off. Okay. I think we skipped a few questions, so let me see where we're at. For the pre-installation application quotes from 2 electricians for a hookup, a requirement, or just 2 vendors providing equipment? I'm not sure what the question is asking.
We can follow up with them individually about, like, their specific project over email too.
Yeah, Matthew, seems like you have something already brewing there, so we will follow up and give you some more clarity. There's a question from Peter. Is part two application similar in content as the discussed post application? Correct. They're actually one and the same.
Mhm.
A single engineering estimate is sufficient. You will not need two of them. That is correct, Eric.
Mhm.
We have a question from Joe. I assume publicly accessible means no purchase required. For example, a charger couldn't be for a customer of a certain business, even if it is open to the public. It can be for the customers of that retail location or business, but it needs to be open for the broader use for a minimum of 9 hours per day, 7 days a week.
Mhm.
Peter, a licensed engineer would be able to provide an engineering quote for you. We have a question from Mike. What if the mailing address is a PO box and not the same as the site address? Ooh,
So the site address is where the project will be installed, but the address listed on the W-9 is where the payment will be made. So if the address is a PO box and that's listed on the W-9, then you would just want to list that information in the application to match the W-9, and then it'll be sent there.
excellent. And Jillian is also writing all of this in the chat. So if you're more of a visual learner, you can reference the chat for answers as well. And again, we will follow up with everyone afterwards. Okay, we had a question come in. Could you clarify who will own the asset?
So the individual incurring the project cost is the one that can apply for the rebate. If an individual is not the one incurring the project cost, then they will not be able to apply for the rebate. Hopefully that clarifies. If not, we can always dive deeper into it in over email.
Sounds like we have a lot of emailing to do after this session. I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone afterwards and learning more about your projects. We have another question. Would the 30% federal tax benefit need to be listed as an additional incentive? And Jillian already answered, beat me to it. Yes, the 30% federal tax benefit would need to be listed as the additional incentive.
Great questions, everyone.
Hmm. Okay, Peter, is the cost of the licensed engineer cost an eligible project cost? Um, that would be part of the labor cost, so that would be eligible. And I'm assuming that would be part of that would be the person who would also be doing your install. And yes, Jillian has confirmed that in the chat.
And then I'm going to list some eligible costs in the chat too.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay, well, I think we're going to start wrapping up. If you have any other follow-up questions that you think of right after we end or later, please email forth. Our email is in the chat. I will put that now. It is ODOT charging rebates at fourthmobility.org.
And
Um,
we'll get this recorded session up as soon as possible on the Community Charging Rebate Program website as well. So if anybody had to leave early or miss some time, we can provide that too.
and we will follow up with everyone and answer your questions through email if we missed it. And I think this is a great question for us to wrap up with. How long is the availability to apply expected to be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Jillian answered that. The application window is open until October, but will close if funding runs out earlier. So we don't currently have a prediction on how quickly funding will run out.
Yeah, and we echo Jillian's sentiment that we do hope the program subscribes quickly. So if you have any issues, any support that you need, please reach out to us. We're here to help you. Um, the recording will be posted on the fourth YouTube page. It will also be on the ODOT program rebate page. It will also be on the fourth rebate page. It will be uh, spread around liberally. So please share it with any other partners you think might want to watch it. And we will also send everyone an email with the recording link. So stay tuned for that.
And I put the community charging rebate program website in the chat as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenna. And there was a question about when the next round would open, and Jillian put it in the chat that if the program is open through October, then the next round is likely to be in early spring of 2024. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up. So thank you so much for your fantastic questions and for being so engaged. Once again, if you have any questions or need any support, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to support you. We're really excited for June 13th. We hope you are too. I'm going to now end the webinar and you will be prompted for the survey. If you could take that, that would really help us improve these sessions for future rounds. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.